The following program is a production of All the Way Live Entertainment.
This show is sponsored by APCW Wrestling Academy. Learn wrestling from WWE Hall of Famer Robert Gibson. If you're interested in becoming a professional wrestler, contact them at 770-871-5417 or online at apcwdouglasville@gmail.com. Also, by Collar and Elbow Brand. Save 10% on your next purchase by using our discount code WPNWrestle. That's WPNWrestle at checkout and get a discount on great collar and elbow products.
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Today on the podcast, we have a dangerous beauty, a beautiful nightmare, if you will. She's on the rise in women's wrestling on the independent scene and seemingly determined to make her mark. If you haven't seen her in your home promotion yet, you can check her out through the power of YouTube on her channel at Charlie Kruel Wrestling on YouTube, and hopefully in the future, maybe, she'll be included on ours. We're going to jump into her life in the business, her future plans in the ring and beyond. So with me tonight is the beautiful nightmare, Charlie Kruel.
Hey guys.
There we go. So, Charlie.
We good?
Yeah.
Hi.
We got to jump right off into it. Why on earth wrestling? I mean, that's not a normal vocation in life.
Well, at first, when I was younger, I used to want to be a zoologist or something that had to do with animals, because I do love animals. Animals are another thing that I love is animals. But when I was about maybe 8 years old, my brothers and stepdad especially were huge wrestling fans. So they all the time, they never missed. I mean, now they're not as big as they were when they were younger, of course, but at the time they never missed, any show that had to do with WWE or wrestling or anything like that. So they used to always watch it, and I would just come in and I would just watch it with them, not really knowing, what that I was watching. It just wasn't interesting to me, and it started from there. And my brothers used to love to wrestle. They would invite the neighborhood kids over, and we would all wrestle and, have, matches or like a WrestleMania moment or whatever. And they would have me be the referee, because my mom, they're always guys, so my mom never really wanted me to wrestle with them because she didn't want me hurt. So she would just say that I could only be a referee, or I could only stand and watch or be timekeeper or anything like that. And I was like, okay. And at one point, Mom was not home, and none of the neighborhood kids came over because it was raining and whatever. Their parents didn't let them get out, whatever. We were all young. So my brothers were like, well, we wanted this triple threat, and now we have to have a third person, but we don't have a third person. So they wanted to do this regardless. And they asked, we won't tell Mom, we promise, And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I immediately jumped at that opportunity. So I was like, yes. And they had me to be, I can't remember who they had me to be. Because I know my brother Trey, he liked to be Rey Mysterio. My brother Chase, he liked to be, sometimes he was Triple H, and sometimes he was Jeff Hardy, or The Undertaker, or something like that. So I think this time, they had me be Jeff Hardy. And I ended up having a wrestling match with them, or quote unquote wrestling match. In our living room, we had we made a square, kind of like a ring, but we like put pillows around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we would have imaginary referee and timekeeper and all of that, and we ended up like breaking stuff on accident. So mom found out, and she was, she was upset, but I wouldn't change it for the world because that's when I was like, I love this. I love doing this. So I always, ever since then, like I always wrestled with my brothers, and it started there. I think at 11 years old was when I was like, I want to be a wrestler one day because I think that'd be a good game plan for me to go after. And it was a scary thought for my family, especially my mom. And it wasn't till AJ Lee signed with the WWE and started doing her gimmicks and all of that, and that's when I was like, I really, really like this. Like, I see the passion in her eyes, and I want the same passion that she has. So I think that's how everything just got started.
So let's recap here. Essentially, your jump into wrestling officially was somewhat of a, hey, we need somebody else to fill in.
Yep.
And then it just turned into, hey, I like this. Even though we're destroying the house and tearing up furniture, and I don't know what you actually busted.
I think it was a lamp.
Ah, the good old lamp. I can't imagine why your mother would be upset with you for that. But I'm
Yes,
assuming
we had a
something forced you
trampoline.
into it. Ah, that you were part of the
Yeah.
Trampoline Wrestling Federation.
That was our fake little wrestling federation that no one ever came to watch. only our parents, and that was it. But it was just something like that. It was just something little. We didn't know what to do. We just wrestled, and we didn't know any moves. I mean, we knew the simple, pick up, AA, all of that kind of stuff. Sometimes we went outside, and sometimes we do that in the living room. I think at one point Mom said that we could no longer wrestle in the living room, so that was a no. Even if it was rainy and stuff out, we still couldn't wrestle in the living room. So our wrestling ring was a trampoline for a long time until it got torn down because it got old.
Well, again, speaking, from the shoes of your parent, I can't imagine why your mother would possibly tell you, no, stop doing this inside the house. I mean,
Well, we did break a lot of stuff, so I think that could have been a huge problem.
Well, you don't say. I'm pretty sure it was a huge problem, especially for her. That can get a little expensive after a while. But I'm also assuming that that this is the untrained portion of your career. Well, we'll call that the Trampoline Wrestling Federation years. So when did it become all right? Time to get the training. Time to go pro.
I started training at 19 years old, fresh out of high school. I train for Grindhouse Pro Wrestling and Grindhouse Pro Wrestling at Wrestling Academy. It is located in Jeffersonville, Indiana, Jeffersonville Arena, 1416 Spring Street, Jeffersonville, Indiana. I started training there the summer of 2017, and I was just very nervous. I was very shy. I didn't know, I knew like I always wanted to do this. So like it was so nerve-wracking because I was, for the longest time, I think for like a year, I was the only girl at Grindhouse Pro Wrestling. So like for the longest time, like all I could do was wrestle guys, and I think that's what helped me learn a lot was that I could wrestle guys and get in the ring with guys.
Okay. Now let's talk about that transition because clearly you were motivated. You found that you love doing it before you officially went for real life training, and you said you went to this directly out of high school, basically. Uh,
Yeah.
so was there ever a moment of, okay, I want to do this. Ooh, I don't know if I can. Did it ever cross your mind that maybe this is out of reach, or were you just so driven, so motivated that at that point nothing was going to stop you?
It was just more motivation. At first, for the longest time, I was very scared to just bump. Can you see something? I was scared to just bump, and for the longest time, I was like, "Oh my God, I can't do this." There was like a lot of times where I was like, "Oh my gosh, I should quit." You know, I don't want to I always wanted to do it, but it was just more, I think I was just scared for a long time. And finally, when I started learning how to actually bump and take bumps and take them properly, and not to where I almost kill myself, was pretty much when I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, I know I can do this. There's always going to be times where, like, I get down on myself and question, you know, my choices and all this. But, like, there's always a part of me that's always like, I will never regret training. I'll never regret getting into wrestling, and started as a fan and started, you know, doing all of this because, I mean, wrestling's changed my life. If it wasn't for wrestling, I wouldn't have met my boyfriend. I wouldn't have met a lot of people that I befriended and I look up to, and that has helped me so much along the way of this crazy journey. I'm just a little bit over a year in the wrestling business, and it's crazy. But I wouldn't change it for the world. That's the great thing about it. Like, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, that's why we have podcasts like these to help introduce fresh new faces to the audience out there so they know who we are listening and looking out for as time goes on, because wrestling is a very rough and bumpy road. So, you know, it's good to meet some new people that's stepping out into the business. You know, one of my big questions here, clearly you are aware of the WWE, but I also find
Yeah.
that sometimes when I interview such as this, there are people that are, you know, were basically unaware that an indie scene existed. Were you knowledgeable about the indies before you sought out training, or was it just WWE and then nothing else, and then all of a sudden this new world opened up for you?
Crazy story. I didn't know anything about the indies. I literally thought for the longest time, I thought that everyone that was in WWE literally just started out at the Performance Center. I didn't know there was anything called the independent wrestling scene. I had no idea, no clue. And in 2016, my friend Tony showed me a flyer that was being held in Indianapolis, and I saw Tommy Dreamer was on there, Angelina Love, the Headbangers. There were a lot of people that Jimmy Hart. There was a lot of people there that I recognized from, you know, of course, from WWE or from different places like Angelina Love from TNA and all that. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. And on top of that, it was also at a PopCon convention. So I love PopCon, I love Comic Con, I love all that crazy nerd stuff. So I was like, this is wrestling, and, you know, it was a mix of wrestling and nerdy comic book stuff. Like, you can't get anything better than that, right? So I was like, I'm definitely going. So me, my stepdad, my friend Tony, we all went together. We met up with Tony at the Indianapolis Convention Center where it was held at. We went to PopCon where a lot of the wrestlers were having their meet and greets. Angelina Love was, Veta Scott, Tommy Dreamer, Jimmy Hart, just a lot of notable people, you know. And I remember, you know, going to just around PopCon and just enjoying it because, you know, and trying to buy stuff, or at least, you know, because there's just a lot of pop figures and a lot of posters I want. I think I just ended up, like, buying a poster there of Naruto, which is my favorite anime.
Oh my god!
But yeah, but anyways, so then I ended up going into it's a wrestling promotion that's no longer around. It's called Strong Style Wrestling, and they usually have it in South Bend, Indiana, but they had this one in Indianapolis, thankfully. And I met people there that I actually ended up befriending and mentoring, having a mentor from them. Amazing Maria is one. She ended up being my first singles opponent ever. She mentors me a lot. She's like a mother to me in the wrestling business. Jason Saint, who ended up actually managing me and helping me get the name of Charlie Kruel, helping me really realize who I am. So this was a huge blessing to have experienced that. and having to realize, oh my gosh, there's actually something called indie wrestling. Like I see these wrestlers and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know who this person is, but they're doing really good and they look like they're having fun, which is the best part. So I was like, okay, so I talked to Jason a little bit. Jason helped me get my foot in the door. He helped me find Grindhouse Pro Wrestling. He helped me, really just discover who I was as a wrestler. And so it really started from there. And I started going to more indie wrestling events in my area, or around the area, I should say. WCWO Wrestling is one. I actually ended up being a part of Strong Style Wrestling as a manager, because Jason Saint brought me in to manage a little bit with him. Along with Amazing Maria, we managed Congo Kong, who we ended up turning on at that same event. So we ended up turning on Congo Kong in that same event.
Shame on you.
Yeah, I know, right? I love Kong. But it was a huge event. And I started wrestling, and now finally, like, they ended up having a show, and he started reaching out to me, the promoter of Strong Style Wrestling. I was like, this would be a huge show for me to be on, because this was the first ever indie event that welcomed me to independent wrestling with Strong Style Wrestling. And it was going to be located at, I think it was going to be in May of last year, and they ended up canceling the event because I think ticket sales or something like that. And he ended up having me on it for like a scramble match. And yeah, he ended up canceling the event like a week before the show actually started. So and that's how Strong Style Wrestling kind of came to a close. Was the promoter just started not really caring for wrestling and started, canceling every show he's ever had, So he just closed down Strong Style Wrestling, and I wouldn't mind having it be brought back, but with a different promoter, because this one I saw him care for wrestling at one point, but then he started kind of like falling through it. He didn't really care to promote it anymore. He didn't really care to try, anymore. So that was kind of the story of that.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, let's backtrack a little bit here, because within that, you're talking about finding yourself and somebody helping you out with, I guess becoming Charlie Kruel. So give me the story. How did this persona get produced?
Like I said, Jason Saint actually helped create the name of Charlie Kruel. I helped create the personality of Charlie Kruel and who she is as a character. And that kind of like, he was throwing names at me, and I was like, I don't really like that one. I don't really like that one, And then finally, like, I believe we found a perfect name, and I was like, at first I didn't want to dig it, because like for a long time for some reason I didn't want to change my name. Like, I just wanted it to be my shoot name for like ever. And I was like, he was just like, that just doesn't, you need a name that will help sell, that people would look like, you hear that name and it just clicks and people are like, oh, I like that. I want to go see that person. So he came up with the name of Charlie Kruel, and I was like, okay. I was like, let's figure out this one. Let me just like kind of get used to it. And I started getting used to it, and I was like, I really actually like this name, because it's different, because last name is Kruel and with a K.
Yeah.
And my first name was Charlie, and my shoot name, my actual name is Carly. So he just changed it to Charlie, because Carly Charlie. Charlie's like a tomboy kind of name, so it just worked out. And that's kind of how that all came to be.
Okay. Now, if you were going to explain, you said you came up with the persona, so if you were going to explain who Charlie Kruel is to somebody who's never seen you in the ring, hadn't heard you cut a promo, never got a chance to see you do a vignette, and I know you've done some of those in your YouTube channel, and I'm going to say anybody that's listening to go check it out. But if they haven't had any exposure to you whatsoever, you're trying to explain who you are. How would you lay that down?
Well, I would explain first off by saying she is the beautiful nightmare. And that's kind of self-explanatory. It's more, I'm beautiful, but I'm a freaking nightmare. She's a maniac. Like she wears fake blood a lot on herself and what represents blood, and that's like the blood of my enemies because I like Charlie Kruel. She's a maniac. So if you had to have me explain it in one word, it'd be maniac.
Okay.
But I just call myself the Beautiful Nightmare Charlie Kruel because I don't know how actually I came up with the Beautiful Nightmare, but it kind of just clicked, and I was like, okay, that kind of works. The Beautiful Nightmare Charlie Kruel. It has a ring to it, so I kept it.
Maybe you were listening to the radio that day.
What?
You say you don't know how you came up with the Beautiful Nightmare. I said maybe you were listening to the radio that day.
Maybe. I don't know. Like I think I'm pretty sure it's a clothing brand, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure exactly how I came up with it, but it just kind of came to me, and I was like, okay, that kind of rings a bell. I like it, so I started using it, and I started having ring announcers, announce me as that. So that's kind of how that came to be.
Did you think that you had a natural aptitude for wrestling coming in as a fan?
I feel like literally I believe in you were born to do something, and I always felt like I was always born to be a wrestler. I felt like I couldn't do anything. I wasn't good at any other sport. I wasn't good at making friends in school. I wasn't good at socializing and a lot of this. But the only thing I knew that I was good at and I wanted to do was be a wrestler. So yes, I feel like it's something that just came to me, and I'm glad that I ever introduced myself to it. I'm glad that my brothers introduced me to it. I'm glad that I went to my first ever independent wrestling event. I'm glad that a lot of this started because, wrestling, you're going to make a lot of mistakes in your career and you're going to learn from them. And, it's a learning experience. Your first 2 years of wrestling is really just a huge learning experience. And I'm still learning myself. I make mistakes and I learn from them. And I just feel like wrestling has always been there. If I was ever upset or I really just, was having a down day, I would immediately turn on wrestling, or if I didn't have any wrestling recorded or wrestling wasn't on or whatever, I'd go on YouTube and I would watch wrestling stuff, and it would just make me feel so much better. And of course, I played the video games as well.
Well, yes, I guess at that time you had to live vicariously through the video game, but you don't have to do that any longer.
Right.
Now you get into the ring and you actually bump around. And
Right, and the WWE games actually has helped me a lot, trying to actually figure out what I wanted to do, because they have the create a character
yes, create a wrestler mode. Yes.
Yes, and I create my character, and you can go and you can give them moves, and I would look at them and I would be like, what kind of move would be perfect for Charlie Kruel? But at the time, I wasn't Charlie Kruel, so what would be perfect for me to look like I could do?
Mm-hmm.
So I would come up with stuff like that, and then I would play as myself, and it was always cool.
So did you have a different persona that you operated under before Charlie Kruel? I mean, outside of your actual name.
Actually, no. I never had another name besides Charlie Kruel. I can't actually think of.
Okay.
I used to think when I was younger, I used to call myself just Carly,
Mm-hmm.
and it never clicked. But I was young, so obviously I was just going through a name, and I didn't know what name to give me on create a character mode. So I just said Carly, and then I finally ended up getting the name of Charlie Kruel. So yeah, I don't think I've ever had anything other than Charlie Kruel.
Well, see, now those sound like they would be diametrically opposed names. Carly and Charlie Kruel. Yeah, see, I can't even envision Carly in the same model or mode as Kruel is.
Right.
So it's probably best that you became Charlie Kruel. But let's dive a little deeper into your wrestling fascination for a while, because when I do these things, I have to do a little research. And would you like to care to talk about your meeting with the Bellas? Apparently.
Oh my gosh.
or is that going to ruin the image of Charlie Kruel.
No, not at all. I don't care about talking about it. I was never a huge Bella Twin fan. I was more of always AJ Lee and Paige, and I was never for the Bellas. But when I met them, my ex-boyfriend, he found that they were coming to Indianapolis, and I was 17 when I met them.
Okay.
So this was literally a year before I welcomed myself to independent wrestling. So this was the February of 2015, and I ended up, he showed me the website, and I was like, Mom, I need to get there. It was 250 or 280 something like that dollars to meet them, but we weren't just meeting them; we were like VIP meeting them.
Yes.
Because and my mom was like, okay, we can VIP meet them, that's fine. So we ended up getting the VIP, ones.
Okay.
And we were literally like maybe fourth in line to meet them in the VIP section part, and we ended up going in, and just to remind you, this is Carly talking, so this is not Charlie Cole. Like, Charlie Cole would not care.
Okay.
Charlie Cole would not care about meeting the Bella Twins, but Carly had a thing for meeting the Bella Twins. So
Okay.
it was at Comic-Con. That's actually where I got my love for comics and stuff. Was actually my first ever Comic-Con in 2015. I was like, this is crazy cool. I love it. So I went and I met the Bellas, and I went in, and they looked at me. They said, twin hug or something like that. They just yelled out of their lungs, like twin hug or something like that, or twin sandwich. I can't remember what they said. And they hugged me, and it was so cool because I'm like 5'3", and Nikki, Bella, and Bree, they're taller than me. So like my like head went right into Nikki's boobs, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But I ended up, that she at the time she held the Divas title, so she let me hold the Divas title, and I was like looking at it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like I'm holding the actual Divas title. Like this was held by AJ, my idol, and that was pretty much when she had me hold the title. That was literally all I was thinking. Like I didn't care that she held it at the time. I was just like, oh my god, AJ Lee held this title. Like that's who held this title. I'm holding the title that AJ Lee held. So like that was pretty much what was going through my mind. They were really cool girls. I went to their signing next. I thanked them for, doing coming here and all of this and wrestling, of course, because they're wrestlers. And at the time, I didn't know how hard it was to be a wrestler, but I knew it wasn't easy. And now that I'm in it, now I'm like, this really isn't freaking easy. But at the time, I didn't know if it was hard or whatever. But I still told them like, thank you for, being a wrestler and entertaining us. And they're like, oh, thank you for being a fan, blah, blah, blah. And in their Q&A, I was literally one of the last people to ask them a question before they had to leave. So I was like, I wanted to go in line and just ask them a quick question. So I went in line and I got up there and I had no idea what to say. I literally, I was going up there like mindless. Like I didn't even know what to ask them, what to say, anything like that. So I literally went up there, and I was like, hi, Nikki, hi, Bree, happy Valentine's Day, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, oh, happy Valentine's Day. And I was like, my question's for Nikki. Can you rack attack me? So obviously, my first question I ever asked a wrestler ever was, can you rack attack me? And they laughed, and she said, no, I don't think I can do that. And Bree was like, oh my gosh, it hurts. You wouldn't want to take it. And now thinking back, I'm like, does it really hurt? Like, I'm sure it sure does give you like a toll on it. But like, now I'm like, that I'm a wrestler. I want to like meet them again and just be like, Nikki, can you rack attack me now? Because like, I was this girl that asked you, can you rack attack me? And you said no, but now I'm a wrestler. So now you can. So I'm like, It was a really fun experience, and that's pretty much my experience of meeting Nikki and Bree the Bellas. So it was a fun experience.
Is that new respect for them? I'm sure.
Yeah, like I said, like I'm not really a Bella fan, but I definitely.
Oh yeah, I understand. You may not like them necessarily. Well, no, let me not say like. Not necessarily as big of a fan, but of course, now you having gone into the ring, seeing, actually feeling what they go through on a day-to-day basis, meeting them, really, there has to be a certain amount of respect there. Yes.
Yeah, there's definitely mutual respect. Especially since I'm a wrestler now. Now I feel like I know how hard it is. And at the time, I didn't care for them. I knew I wasn't going to miss up the opportunity to meet the Bellas, regardless, because I was like, it's a huge opportunity. I don't want to miss it, and I would regret missing it. So I definitely went for it. But like I said, never was a huge Bella fan, but I have a lot of respect for them. So I have a lot of respect for anyone that actually does what we do, past, present, and right.
Okay. Now, that may be a little bit open ended. Now that you say that, I'm going to veer off of my normal stint of questions here because uh, having done this a number of times and interviewed and covered a lot of shows and wrestlers, I have found that there are some who have quite openly admitted that they are untrained, got into the ring,
Yeah.
and it is, for all intents and purposes, it's not a pretty sight. So I'm gonna, and I know you're fresh into it, but I'm gonna present a scenario here because I want to hear your opinion of it. Now that you train, and I assume you're continuing to train. You're wrestling people that have more experience than you, so you're learning that way also. But when you are in a ring, hypothetically speaking, and you're getting in there with somebody who you basically know has no training, all right? How do you
Oh,
how do you
yeah.
even handle that? Because on the one hand, do you cancel out the match and say, "Look, I'm not wrestling this person. They don't know what they're doing." But on the other, you can get in there, and I've seen some people do this where they have carried this match miraculously to something that symbolizes something good, but now you make that person look better, and then they go on to get another gig because of your work. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. What do you do in that scenario?
It has actually happened once with me, a few times actually.
Really? Okay.
First
Well,
time I was ever actually, first time I was ever in the ring. Before my singles debut, I had a match in December at a show that had who did it have?
you
Crap, I
you don't
can't
have
think.
to use names if you don't want to. It's fine.
Right, I'm not gonna say names.
Okay.
But I was in a 6-person tag with me and two other guys, and against two other guys and another girl. Well, the girl was not trained at all, and it was my first ever match, actual match. And I was in it, and she was confused the entire time. The match was terrible. It was horrible. I was so glad that it was over. I was especially really, really new. I didn't even have my official debut yet. Like, that was just the taste of it, and I was like, this is going to be bad. And she ended up being like, why did you put me in there with this newbie, And in my head, I'm like, at least I'm trained, like, no shade, just tea. But, like, no, I was just like, I'm trained, though. Like, I'm trained, you're not, but, whatever. They gave me this opportunity, and I went for it. Kind of stupid of me to go for it because I was like, oh, I don't even know. Like, I wasn't ready. And I went for it, and I was like, oh, well, okay, this happened. There has been times where I went against a girl that she has trained before, but she hasn't trained in forever, and she's been in for years, and she only wrestles maybe 6 times a year, maybe not even that. Like, it's something like that, and it was bad. It was bad too. Like, if I ever get asked to go against somebody, and it's somebody that's not really trained or not really whatever, I think I'm just going to be like, I'm not comfortable with, working and putting my body with somebody who's not trained, because you're in the ring to protect each other, and if you're not trained to do this stuff and know how to protect somebody, know how to protect yourself, it can ruin somebody's career. completely. It's really messed up somebody. So
Yeah.
that's my opinion on that.
Okay. And career is putting it lightly. I mean, you
Yeah.
can mess up somebody's life and livelihood. And again, there's two that come to the top of my head right now. I will not mention their names for anybody that's out there listening. Uh, I asked one of them to come onto the show to explain herself because she did get called out on social media. I won't go into that, but she did not accept that offer. Stepped down for a little while and returned. That might be a clue to some people, but in either case, I have yet to have seen a match where there hasn't been some form of botch, and I do concern that it will get bad one day if she doesn't go somewhere and get this thing done right. Uh,
Right.
needless to say, as you were in your case, you said that the girl said, "Why did they put you? Why did they put her in there with you?" I can only imagine that she was used to being in there with people that could carry her and make her look good without any effort, which again, you know, doesn't do her any favors either.
Right. I feel that.
But that's neither here nor there. So we had to sidetrack there for a second. So anyway, back to the world of Charlie Kruel, because that's what we're here to talk about. I'm going to assume that you prefer working heel opposed to babyface.
Yeah, I will work whatever the promoter needs me to work, but if I had to choose, I would choose being heel because it is more of my strong suit.
Mhm.
It's more of my it's fun being heel, but it's so much easier for me to be heel because I have that side of me. Like there's some people that say like I'd rather be a babyface, or some people that say like I want to be a heel. And it just depends on strong suits. Like my boyfriend, he's a wrestler. He goes by the name of Akira. He prefers to be a babyface over being a heel because that's his character, you know. And I prefer being a heel over a babyface. But if like a promoter wants me to be a babyface against one of their heels, I'm okay with that too. Like I'm not gonna, I wouldn't be upset about that. But if I had to choose, I would prefer being a heel over baby.
Okay. I mean, just judging off the name and the look alone, that's the first thing I'm thinking. I'm thinking heel, but you know, I've also seen you operate babyface, so clearly you're able to do it.
Right, right. It is my strong suit.
And I also noticed that you do not seem to be intimidated by being in front of a camera, cutting promos, doing vignettes or interviews. I also assume that you produced your own on a couple of different occasions.
Once in a while, because when I post something on YouTube, sometimes it's either between a match of mine or it's a promo that I cut. And yes, promos are actually my one of the biggest strong suits I have in wrestling. I took a lot of acting classes as in school. I did a lot of acting. I did a lot of Shakespeare plays. I was always the main role. Acting is just another love that I have. Like if I wasn't a wrestler, I'd probably go try to be on Broadway or something because acting's a huge part of me. And a lot of times people are like, "This is what we want you to say," blah blah blah, and I'm like, "But when I'm out there, I'll say the main points of what you want me to say, but I usually talk with whatever my mind has me saying. Like
Yeah,
if I'm out there, if you give me a mic, I'll take the mic, whatever. I'm going to cut the promo that I feel currently.
yeah,
There's a time where I went out there and I just ripped people apart. There's times where I'm just like emotional and I'm just thanking everybody. That's usually, babyface me. But as a heel, I just rip people to shreds. Like I literally I have no care in the world with doing promos. I'm usually just like, I say just whatever comes to my mind. And that's a good and a bad thing because it can get me in trouble a lot. But it's good with promos. It's good with promos because then I can be like, well, at least I'm good with promos.
Well, yeah, I did look at that, as he looked very comfortable doing it. Again, I've seen some people who not not quite as smooth as you are. Now, there have been some that have literally just kind of frozen in front of the camera. So that is good that you are able to get past that without any problem. So considering the videos that you have, I have to ask about this one because I found it entertaining. Tell me about this video where you run around looking for a partner.
Oh, that video. That was for Battle on the Border. It was it was more of just like Shauna Reed was trying to find a partner, and I was trying to find a partner. We were told this by Denham Blevins. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. But we just call him Denham. He is the promoter of Battle on the Border in West Harrison, Ohio. He wanted us to find a mystery partner. And if you don't know me, I'm not very a likable person. So it was harder for me than I'm sure it was with Little Miss Lovable Shauna Reed to find a partner. So I just took up the opportunity and I was like, let me just go and try to find a partner. And it went well because I couldn't find a partner literally until the day of. Last minute, I found a partner and I was like, you're coming out with me. You don't need anything. Let's just go. Kind of thing.
Yes, that was one part of the video. Just said everybody just turning you down. Like, no.
I know, right?
So it's like, I said, she must have been just a horrible person to these people. Terrible.
Exactly.
Well, and you know, let's not overlook the fact that you just barged in on a guy while he was trying to do his business in the bathroom. I mean, you know, that's not too nice, Charlie. Not too nice.
I mean, if that doesn't show how desperate I was to find a partner, then I don't know what does.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, you couldn't even wait for him to finish and then ask. He just like still, he's saying, "Go, get out of here." You still ask her, "Will you be my partner? Come on now." Like, come on, let the man finish. Ask him when to come out.
Oh, that's the thing. Like, I didn't want. Like, I had him. Everyone was just, ignoring me, and they were just walking by me, and I was like, okay, this guy, he can't go anywhere. Like, I'll just open the door and I'll ask him. The worst thing he could say is no, right? Well, so that's I don't wait for people. Like, if I see the opportunity to do something, I'm just gonna do it.
Well, we've learned another aspect of Charlie Kruel's personality just in watching that video. That's for certain. I have seen a photograph of you standing in a steel cage. Now, did you actually participate in the steel cage match, or were you just photographed in the cage?
What? Like, describe the photo. What did it look like?
Well, it just looked like you kind of, I don't want to say, kind of peering out towards the crowd near the cage. I didn't see any other persons in it, so I can't say whether it was in the middle of a match or anything like that.
I think, what did I have, like, what was I wearing? Was it my gear?
I do believe you were in your gear.
Okay, because I know there was one time I was in steel cage, but it wasn't me in the match. It was like I told you before, it was Strong Style Wrestling. Mm-hmm. It was me managing with Jason Stain and Maria with Congo Kong versus Shane Mercer, and that was one time I was in a cage. But there was one other time I actually wrestled in a cage. Wasn't a good show. My opponent ended up not coming, so they gave me speaking of untrained people, They gave me an untrained guy to wrestle. For a women's title, and it was literally like a 2-minute match. It wasn't even that, like.
Wait a minute. Let's back this up a little. Yep. You get, not only did you get an untrained guy, but you got an untrained guy for the women's title.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, that's interesting.
I literally relinquished the title, I think, a few weeks after I won it. Because let me tell you. If Tommy Dreamer was there, Sandman was there, and Shane Douglas was there, and all three said they don't want to come back to Indianapolis, Indiana because of that said, then that tells you something.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure we can leave that just hanging like that. Like that. So,
God.
What was the problem here? Tommy Dreamer, the Sandman, and Shane Douglas all unanimously said they didn't want to come back.
Yeah, pretty much the entire part of Indianapolis was surprised not all of Indiana. No, it was a really bad show. It was the entire show was in a steel cage, and that was pretty much it. Like, the untrained guy, I don't even know his name. He pretty much said, like, I told him my stuff, I was going to give him my kicks, I was going to give him the huge kicks, and I was going to go into the finish or whatever. He said, am I going to kick out of the kick? And I told him, there's no kicking out. You're not kicking out. There is one pin, so there's just that. Like, there's one pin, you're not kicking out, that's it. So I told him straight up, like, this is it. The finish is this. Just bump, and you'll be fine. And that was it. And I won, and after a few weeks later, I was one thing, I couldn't even keep up with their schedule. They wanted me for days that I wasn't available. They wanted me, and then they got mad at me when I was already booked on those days. So I was just like, I can't do this with you guys. I'm sorry. I don't want to be a ghost champion. I don't want to be a champion that's like, not there to defend my title. And another thing is, like, they put me on a flyer for December because, like, my December schedule last year was a few months ago, obviously. Literally, I think every single Saturday and every single weekend of December I was booked somewhere, and they had this whole thing where every single Saturday they had a show. So I was booked on every single Saturday of that show, and I couldn't come and, defend my title or wrestle or do anything like that. And he ended up saying, like, he ended up putting me on the flyer for all of it anyways. So I've had fans that were upset that I couldn't be there, and I said, well, I wasn't supposed to be there to begin with, and I'm sorry that, you guys thought I was going to be there, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but I told them I wasn't going to be able to be there anyways, regardless. So that was that.
All right. Well, I don't know if we will categorize that under shady promoters and shady promotions, but I guess that's the only real way that we can kind of stick that. So,
yeah.
Sorry to hear that. And it seems to be a running theme, because I think the last interview, I just went through this same conversation with Casey Dillon. Shout out to her, by the way. So, yeah, apparently this is something that you have to kind of navigate through when dealing on the independent circuit.
Yep, I would say that to anybody who is wanting to get in the indies and indie wrestling is just watch out for promoters who will do that and who are shady and aren't professional or any of this. I'm not going to say names about anybody. But yeah, just watch out for stuff like that, because I definitely learned, and I definitely was like, I can't do this, so I just relinquished my title.
Well, let's talk about a show that was good and that you were on with some reasonable people like Berwyn Championship Wrestling. Did you perform that show in October?
I did.
Was
yeah,
it
that was my
October?
first time
Okay,
with the show.
Okay, yeah, I was trying to remember the date because I talked with the promoter and because I believe that was one of, if not their first all-female show that they put together. And they had several people that were supposed to be from my region, which is outside of Atlanta, Georgia, coming up to Chicago, and Berwyn, I guess I should say to be more specific, to participate in the show. Now, if I'm not mistaken, were you pulled in as a replacement during that show?
I was hit up by Ronnie Nicole, Big Bang Nicole. Shout out to her. And they had one girl canceled, so I was lucky enough to get that opportunity, and it was a really fun show. It was a really good time. The promoter liked me. The promoter brought me back actually just last month for a Valentine's show, and I wrestled Elena Black on that show. It was all really good. It was a really good show, and I love Berwyn, so I want to go back.
See? Opportunity. You never know when and how it's going to knock.
Yeah.
Now, who did you take on in the your first time out? I had the results, but I can't, like I said, I can't remember it off the top of my head right now.
Oh, who did it was a 6-person, no, wait. It was an 8-person it was 8 women tag match, elimination tag match.
Oh, okay.
It
All
was
right. There we go.
me. Yes.
I
Who all did?
I remember now. Okay, I
Let me
forget
put
the
it
young lady
on this
that stepped out, but yeah, I remember now. There we go. 'Cause, was it Paloma? That was the team captain.
for the other team. Yes,
Oh, okay, you weren't on her side. All right,
and I was on the opposite side.
you were on the heel side. I'm assuming.
I was on the babyface side.
What? You were a babyface?
Yeah, I was babyface there.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna act totally surprised that you're a babyface. You said you could do both equally as well, so we'll leave it at that. But
Right, and it was a fun show.
but the moral of the story there, for all you wrestlers out there that's trying to get in, opportunity, be prepared.
Oh yeah.
So, if someone hasn't seen you work and you're introducing yourself to them, what match of yours are you going to pull out and say, hey, go watch this?
I have a few. My match versus Samantha Heights, my match versus Freddie Hudson, my match versus Double D Rose, Dementia De Rose, my match versus Randy West, my match versus Ronnie Nicole, my match versus Jenna Van Muscles. There's a lot of matches.
Okay.
But yeah, shout out to all those people.
Yes, Double D
And
Rose. We
stay
love Double
really
D
on my YouTube
Rose.
channel. Yeah, I do. I do love her.
Just try not to hit or, don't take shots at her rear end, otherwise you might hurt yourself.
I learned that actually.
Everybody learns that the hard way,
Oh yeah.
you know. And I've been covering her since before she was offering up the Buns of Steel challenge, but in recent years it seemingly has become indestructible. So if you are a wrestler and you get in the ring with her, it's probably not the best thing for you to take a punch at it or kick it or headbutt or anything like that because it doesn't seem to work. So, and
Yeah,
apparently,
I tried that.
what did you try, Charlie? What did you do?
I tried kicking her butt and it didn't work.
Did you sprain your foot or something along those lines? Did you hurt
It
your
seemed
ankle
like it
or
probably.
no?
Oh, it hurt. It hurt a lot. So definitely, I think that was the reason why I lost that match. Is like my foot hurt so much because of her ass.
Wow. Well, did you take Damnesia? I want to say I think I saw that, but I don't recall. Did you get caught with Damnesia? Because it's one thing for you to attack it, but it's another thing for it to attack you.
What happened was actually my opponent couldn't be there at last minute, so we kind of had her thrown into the mix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's how that happened. But I had a really good match with her. I liked working with her. I want to work with her again.
well, you know what? You should probably make a trip down to Georgia so you can take her on.
Exactly. I think that's a goal of mine now.
Well, there we go. I'm gonna mark that on the calendar and see if we can get that thing booked. Most dangerous match. Have you been in any stipulation matches so far, or has it just been pretty, one-on-one, straight and narrow?
Nothing too crazy. I did have a street fight.
Okay.
My first ever street fight at a girl fight show in Indianapolis.
And how did we fare in this street fight?
How did we what?
How did we fare in it? Did you do okay?
Oh yeah, it was a fun match. I ended up winning and getting the W, so that was awesome. Winning my first street fight. After that, I was like, I want to do more. Like I want to do more street fights. At one point, I knew like it was time for us to take the match home, and I was like, but why? Like I'm having fun, man. Like why do we have to do this now? No, it was a good time.
Because you got the next match got to get in there. You can't monopolize the whole night. I know you were having fun. Short-term goals. What do you intend on accomplishing in 2019?
Accomplishing in 2019. Oh my gosh. More places, more wrestling matches, more experience, more getting better. Working with some people I really want to work with. Wrestling with some people I really want to wrestle. Just promotions I want to work for. There's a lot. just improvement, getting better, a lot of that.
Okay. With the current wrestling landscape, this is a hypothetical question, by the way. In the current wrestling landscape, if you did not go to the WWE, do you think you could be satisfied?
I would be, because there are a lot of promotions out there other than WWE that I really want to sign a contract with. Like, obviously, there is now AEW. AEW is huge right now. I mean, I don't even know if they have their first show, and it's already a huge deal. So there's that. There's Ring of Honor, Women of Honor. There's TNA. There's a lot of promotions out there that are worth, let's say I don't get in WWE, but I could say I could try for those companies as well.
Yes. And you can still earn a living, which is fantastic and amazing, really, because I know for, the last decade, it was almost like if you didn't go to WWE, you was just out of luck.
Yeah, it's not really like that now. I still have in the back of my mind, like, man, I really want to get to WWE. That's my goal. I mean, that's my dream. But if there was the possibility I never got to, there are still other places I could go or try to go to.
Yeah. And that is fantastic.
Fantasy booking.
Charlie, we have reached the time of the interview where we get to random questions. You know what that is?
What would that be?
It is the time where I just ask you a bunch of stuff that aren't necessarily wrestling related. And we see what your answers are going to be, because we like to keep this nice and light and fun.
Right.
So are you ready, Ms. Kruel?
I am ready. Throw them at me.
What is the greatest anime of all time, and why is it Ninja Scroll?
Why is it what?
Ninja Scroll.
Ninja Scroll? I like ninjas. That's why I'm a huge fan of Naruto. Naruto is definitely my favorite anime. It is my favorite anime of all time. It inspires me. I'm looking at a poster that I have of it right now. The one that I said I bought at PopCon or Comic-Con or whichever one I bought it at. Naruto is definitely the number one and my favorite anime ever. It is my favorite.
Why is the DC Cinematic Universe so bad?
Oh, you did not just say that.
Yes. Now let me clarify. Now, I don't personally have a problem with the movies individually, but as a cinematic universe, it's just not connected. It ain't weaving the right way, and they keep it's like 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. So why is it so bad?
I understand. Like, I understand everyone's got their opinion, but DC is my favorite. DC Comics, mainly because it has Harley Quinn. And Harley Quinn's my favorite. It has the Joker. Joker is my favorite, one of my favorites. It has Batman. So mainly those ones and others. That's why I love DC. I love DC Comics.
Well, now notice I didn't mention the comics now. Now, 2 things I will never take away from DC. I won't take away the comics. The comics have been written pretty good overall. I will not take away the DC animated movies. The DC animated movies are fantastic. I love those. I still got to watch Reign of Superman, by the way. That was the last one that I just purchased. Constantine was pretty good. Not necessarily for kids. If you have any kids out there listening, Constantine, that would be for adults. So I just want to make sure I put that out there before I continue. Now, go ahead.
I actually like the live action movies. I know a lot of people have their certain opinions, but Suicide Squad is a really good movie to me. It's funny. It's different. It's the whole, bad guys doing good thing, and it's a really good movie to me. And I know a lot of people have their opinions, but to me, I love Suicide Squad. So there's a lot of live action movies to DC that I love and I enjoy.
Okay, that's fair enough. Does it bother you that Will Smith won't be back for the new one?
This is actually the first time I'm hearing this.
Really?
Yes, it does bother me. He was amazing in Suicide Squad, and I'm surprised that he's not coming back. So
Idris Elba will be taking the spot.
Who?
Idris Elba.
Oh, okay. Well, Will Smith was always the better one, so let's see how that guy does.
Okay. Who is the originator of the song Beautiful Nightmare?
There's a song called Beautiful Nightmare.
Yes, it is. See, I gave you the hint of that earlier.
I think I've actually heard that. I think people have said I need to use it as a theme song, and I listened to it, and I was like, not really.
It may not work for you in that regard, but it is the name of the song. But seeing that you didn't know who it is, I would just tell you it is Beyonce.
Beyonce. Oh, that makes sense. I love
Beyonce, Beautiful Nightmare, 2008 is when that was released.
Actually, I think it was a different song because now I'm looking it up because I don't think I've ever heard the one by Beyonce.
Well, you have to look that one up.
It's called Sweet Dreams, right?
You know what? Don't quote me on that. I thought it was Beautiful Nightmare, but if you look, Google Beautiful Nightmare and Beyonce and see what comes up.
I would do that.
You're a DC girl. Batman Brave and the Bold, the animated series. Did you ever watch it?
I did not, actually.
Oh, that's a good cartoon. See, now you can't answer that. Kruel the Eternal. Which is the first thing I thought when I saw your name initially.
No.
But you have no idea who Kruel the Eternal is.
No, I don't.
It's a caveman who was affected by a meteorite, and he became eternal. Hence the name.
There's still things I need to look about DC that I need to learn. Apparently.
I should send you that episode.
You should actually.
It's Brave and the Bold was built around the concept of Batman having a guest star with him every episode. This particular guest star was Booster Gold, and they took on collectively Kruel the Eternal, which I thought
is awesome.
Find to be one of my more entertaining episodes. I thought it was nice and funny. I don't know if I should go into what is cruel and unusual punishment because the definition of that is pretty vague, so we'll skip that one. But we'll do this. What is a match stipulation that is too cruel, even for Charlie?
Well, that's kind of weird. Nothing's too cruel for me, so I can't really answer that one.
No, there is no match stipulation. It was like, okay, yeah, that's a little bit too far.
Okay, well, I guess if you're thinking bra and panties, stuff like that, that's too far. I wouldn't do that. I would say no to that.
Okay, well, that's just perverse. I don't know if that's cruel, but so barbed wire, that's perfectly fine, and light tubes and stuff like that, because there are some bookers out there that will have some just ridiculously outlandish hardcore matches if they had the opportunity, but apparently those things don't affect you. So we will move on and go into the final phase of this, and that would be fantasy booking.
Fantasy booking.
And you know what fantasy booking is, Charlie? It is the point, because I believe that every wrestler has one storyline and or angle that they have locked away in their head that they can break out to a promoter at any time and say, okay, look here, this is what I want to do, and this is how I want to do it. So, Charlie, give me your fantasy booking.
Me, with myself?
With yourself, with an opponent. The only stipulation with the opponent is that they have to actually be alive. I know some people like, well, I want to wrestle, Andre the Giant. No, he didn't qualify. He's dead. They have to be alive. They have to be somebody that you can actually, potentially get in the ring with right now, meaning they're on the independent circuit.
Does it have to be the independent circuit?
No. We'll give you a pass on that one.
Okay. Mia Yim is one.
Okay.
Is number one. I actually met her. I did a seminar of hers back in New Jersey last year, and I knew I was like I really want to have a match with her one day. I talked to her about it, and then she ended up getting signed to WWE, and I was like, okay. But that makes me want to get there even more because I'm like, I still want my match with Mia Yim. It's gonna happen one day. I know it is.
Okay. Did you have some sort of storyline built around this idea for you and Mia?
I don't actually know. I never came up with a stipulation, storyline, or anything like that. It was just more of just I want to get in the ring with her and wrestle kind of thing.
Ah, okay. Well, I see, as creative as you are, I just assumed that you probably had a 3-month storyline, a story arc, and all that stuff ready to go.
Right.
But then again, you have time, so you may produce one as the years go by. Hopefully, it won't take you years to get there, though.
Right.
Well, then I guess Mia Yim will qualify as the fantasy booking for you, and there we have it. Maybe perhaps one of these days when you show up on NXT, you too can wrestle Mia Yim.
That would be awesome. I would love that.
Well, there's always the I don't want to call it the jobber role. Let's not say that. That doesn't sound good. When NXT comes to town and they look for local talent to step in the ring with their stars, let's say that. You can always do that, but I'm not sure I don't think that's exactly what you're looking for. I know you want a little bit more competitive match than just to be the one to take the slams and the blows and all that stuff to make her look good.
Right.
So perhaps once Charlie Kruel has elevated her name on the independent circuit and she's gone across the country from coast to coast and built up who you are, and the WWE comes knocking at your door, then you can be introduced as a surprise opponent for the then NXT Women's Champion Mia Yim. I'm giving her predictions right now. At an NXT TakeOver, and there you have your big match and your big moment.
That would be awesome.
I know it would be. That'd be a moment in time for you. And if it does happen, I'll always be able to look back at this show and say, I called it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there we are, Charlie. I think we have gone through the entirety of this interview, and you have done fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me.
Would you like to share your social media for your fans and people to follow you and for promoters to contact you if necessary?
I'm under Charlie Kruel on everything. My email is charliekruel@yahoo.com. So yeah, if you just look up Charlie Kruel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anything, it should pop up. Kruel with a K. Okay,
Charlie Kruel with a K, and please, for those that's out there listening, leave her email as a business outlet. So that would be for promoters. Please, we'll ask for that.
Yeah, please.
And as for the Women's Pro Wrestling Network, you can always catch Women's Pro Wrestling Network on Facebook and YouTube. Spell it all out, and anything else, just WPN Wrestling. And if you are catching this podcast on these various platforms, anywhere where you listen to platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and so on and so forth, be sure to follow, like, or subscribe. Of course, this also comes down on YouTube. So you've got plenty of places everywhere that you can listen to podcasts. There's no reason for you not to be able to follow these things along. And if you want to get the nexus for everything that we do, go to the WPN website. That's WPNWrestling.com. It's the centerpiece for everything that we do. And I think that is where I will call this thing a night. So for myself, for Charlie Kruel, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying I will see you on the next go round.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.